Hi, my name is Darren from HCJ.tax, and we're the team that seeks to demystify that sometimes confusing world of international tax. And today we have the honor and privilege of speaking with George. George, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Darren. My name is George Dimov. I'm a certified public accountant, and I have a team of 14 senior professionals. And what we do is the same type of thing: demystify taxes as much as possible, and with a focus in international and typically complex situations.
Fantastic.
So let's speak about the opposite. What about U.S. exposed individuals, U.S. tax residents who are doing business or engage in some sort of activity outside of the U.S.? What are the common challenges you see them experiencing with international banking? And what sort of advice would you give?
Well, in the international side, you'll get essentially the same type of issues that you have on the US side. You have compliance, you have know your client rule or their own equivalent of all the documentation required to verify who you are and what kind of business you're doing. You're going to have the same type of difficulty obtaining loans or credit. You'll have the same type of account compliance risks. You're going to see that. And, there's also countries where they might not have the best relationship with the United States if the person's a US person. So you might have some political risk there as well. These are all things that you kind of have to gauge, or, if depending on what exact country it is, either on Darren's team or on my own team, if anybody watching this show needs support there, we might be able to get you somebody that's country specific there, or at least refer you to somebody. So there are country specific, each country is different. So you're going to have some country specific things to keep in mind. On the US reporting side, same types of things that we talked about earlier in the call are required. Make sure if you're doing business outside of the United States, you have to file your FBARs or your 8938s to show that you have money outside of the United States. If you're doing business in the United States, some of these countries are going to require you to register a legal entity there. Sometimes that legal entity has to be registered with somebody that's a citizen in that country. Okay, so you might have a partnership. Whatever the case may be, whatever entity that you have in this foreign country, remember, you have United States compliance filing requirements as well. So you have your 8865s for foreign partnerships. You have your 5471s for foreign corporations. We've seen even people filing 1040 returns that have a sole proprietorship in these other countries. Just to be careful, file your US based forms to ensure that the IRS knows that you have this. You also, and one thing, I've seen your show on GILTI, Darren. You have new requirements that came out in the last 8 years or so that require other forms that must be reported having to do with income that's connected to you that's happening in other countries. So that's another compliance requirement. And another thing, and I'll reiterate, the penalty for getting one of these forms wrong or filing it late, even a day late, is massive. If you're going to do business outside of the United States and you are a United States person, meaning a green card holder, permanent resident, or a United States citizen, okay, or for any kind of other reason, a U.S. tax resident, meaning living in the United States over 183 days for the year, okay, or meeting whatever checklist of requirements to be a U.S. tax filer, okay, as a full resident tax filer, meet with an advisor far in advance before. As part of your checklist of items before you're going into business somewhere, especially if you know you're about to go into business and it all makes sense from a business sense, make sure to also have a plan. And I'm not saying pay somebody $50,000 to put together the most complicated structure or plan for you. At least book a 1 hour consultation with somebody you trust or somebody that you have as a recommendation, or even with one or two individuals, just so you kind of spot check commonalities, and so you can kind of get a second opinion. Make sure to have at least a brief jotted down plan in place about what you need to keep track of in order to file properly and what dates to keep track of. I always say, if you're really, really stuck, make sure to file an extension. You don't get a penalty for filing an extension and you have one of these situations here. You only get a penalty if you underpay your tax at the extension deadline. Okay, so you want to pay whatever you think is owed around April, but before April 15th. But you definitely, if you have some kind of structure that's very difficult to figure out and you don't already have a plan, make sure to file an extension to get yourself the extra time. Because I see situations very often where people think that because they didn't make money, they're exempt from one of these reporting requirements. That is not true. You can have an entity outside of the US that lost money. You could lose $1 million in an offshore entity, and miss the deadline for reporting it and still be penalized. So this has nothing to do with income or activity. The entity could be inactive. Make sure you report.
Okay, fantastic. Again, very well said, very well said, very informative. George, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
My website is a great way. You can go on our website, which is Dimov Tax. It's my last name. That's EIMOV tax.com. Or you can send an email directly at info@dimoftax.com. Those are two great ways to get in touch with us. We also have a phone number. You can also call us. And the best phone number is 833-829-1120. That's +1 833-829-1120.
Fantastic. Thank you.